Okay guys, so today we're going to be talking about good old Minecraft Legends. And so, if you don't know what this is, it's a bit different than your typical Minecraft. It's even different than Minecraft Dungeons, right? The way it was kind of advertised was as like this big open world, control your troops, kind of command and conquer type of game, but with the Minecraft skin on it, right? That's what it was kind of advertised as. That's really what it is, but it has some problems that really just bring the game down, as well as some really top-notch quality stuff that for someone who isn't, big into games in this genre, who doesn't play these types of games constantly, I found fun. So let's go ahead and get into all that. So what are you going to actually be doing in this game? If you've only ever played Minecraft, just with your pickaxe, building your little houses and all of that stuff, what is this? What do you do? What's your gameplay loop, right? So you ride around on horseback and your only essential attack is the sword. You're really not going to be doing too much yourself, but where your damage and the gameplay actually comes from is from mining resources and using those resources to build units and then commanding those units to attack the enemy bases and the enemies. Now, if this sounds relatively simplistic, that's because it is. Fundamentally, these types of games are really simple when you start out, and then as you introduce different enemy types and then different units for the player to use, it gets more complicated. We have to use different strategies and different placements and all of that stuff. So how does Minecraft use that? Well, it takes the mining concept from Minecraft and uses the resource gathering, and that's probably the coolest part of the game, right? You have to run around and collect resources to use to make your different units and upgrade your base and all of this stuff. And this is the thing it takes most from Minecraft, the actual mining, the resources, and the skins that it uses for the mobs and your units. Now, how does controlling these units and all of that work? Now, aside from mining, there's two other central things you can be doing to the gameplay, and that will be putting down units or putting down what I'm going to call buildings or traps or anything like that. So let me go ahead and start with that first one, the units. This can be things like golems, zombies, skeletons, creepers, warriors, all this good stuff that's some new and some old to Minecraft, right? And each one has a unique ability, whether it heals and debuffs, whether it's good for taking out structures, good for range damage. There's creepers, obviously a suicide bomber, good for taking out large groups and buildings, and they each have their unique playstyle and how you use them in different scenarios, which is great, right? That's what these types of games need to do to keep each unit feeling dynamic and different. Same thing goes for the enemies. They have ranged and big enemies and bosses and small little grunt enemies and all of that stuff. The same thing, what you'd come to expect. The problem with this is how it works. So you have spawners that you place down. And when you place these spawners down, they can't be placed inside of a combat zone. And typically these types of games give you a grander view to work with, or some type of snapping system to where you can snap between your troops so that you can spawn and then instantly get back to the action and still give commands. But it's not the case here. You're tied to this horse, and there is kind of this overview system that you can use, but it's not great. So as your troops die, you're constantly having to run back to the spawners to spawn more troops. And so this becomes problematic, and personally I feel ruins the pacing. But aside from that, I only really have one other problem with this type of combat. And so, let's say you have, and I'm going to get technical here, sorry, but let's say you have your stone golems, right? They're used for destroying buildings. And then you have, just keeping it simplistic, your archer golems that are used for keeping off enemies and keeping them at range. When you start the game, your max amount of units is 20. So let's say you have 10 and 10, right? But then they spawn a bunch of enemies, this big wave comes through. So you want to switch it up, you want to get rid of those building destroying golems that you were using to take out the enemy spawners and the arrow traps and all of that stuff, and use more archer golems, right? Well, there's no way to destroy your units, or say, okay, let's get rid of these, or transfer these 5 out of my 20 into this type. You're stuck with them unless you either kill them, obviously, or they die in combat. So it came to the point where I was having to suicide some of my units at the lower difficulties in the game in order to spawn the ones that I actually wanted to use. Now, as for the unit variety and all of that stuff, it's what you expect, it's fine. But that's really my big problem with the unit part of the gameplay. Now let's talk about the other half. And that's this building part, right? Upgrading your base, being able to put traps down, redstone launchers, all of that stuff. This works a little bit better but not so much in the campaign. So let's talk about this. The game is split primarily into 3 modes, right? You have the campaign, which consists of you going around and attacking enemy bases, which in my opinion is the worst part of the game. When you are on offense here, it's not enjoyable. The troop commands aren't specific enough, and maybe it's a console thing, but I think it's more of just a way it's designed to keep the audience engaged by putting you on horseback and putting you in the combat, but that doesn't give you enough troop control to where you feel like you're actually doing anything. So that's my problem with the offensive and the whole campaign as a whole. You're constantly running around and having to attack bases and not really getting to enjoy the best part of the game, which for me is the defense, right? You get to do this a little bit in the campaign, but not as much as I would like. I would highly prefer to just do defensive stuff, get to build up your base and set up traps and all of that stuff. That's what I enjoy in this game. And luckily, there's a mode for that, right? There's a wave survival mode. I want to say it's 30 waves. Play this all with friends, of course, but the wave survival is the way to go. It starts out real easy, and it gives you everything from the start. You have every mob, every trap, every unlock, every ore, all of that stuff from the very beginning. And while it seems real simple at first, right, you're just your 20 units, you're fighting like 10, 15 enemies, you set up a perimeter base, all of that stuff, it gets complicated. They give you resources every single round you survive so you can craft more stuff. You're not having to go out and actually scavenge the resources, but obviously with each round, it gets harder. As you just saw on screen, there's 395 enemies left in this round. This is at wave 20. We didn't even make it to wave 30. You get access to everything, so you can make the redstone launchers and all of the really cool mobs with the zombies and the creepers and the skeletons. And you get to have the stuff that can heal your base and turn it to stone, and all the different turrets and the towers that stun people and the frost traps and all of the really cool stuff. This is the part that I like, getting to just like set up a base and defend it. And in my opinion, it's more fun with friends. You can have people that are running around commanding the troops, telling them where to go, because you get up to 100 in this game mode. But you can also have people, like what I was doing, inside, building stuff, repairing the base, setting up traps, manning these redstone launchers. I like this mode a lot. Honestly, if this was just the game, just the main campaign with increasing difficulty and unlocks as you progressed, I would have liked this more. Even though this sounds super repetitive, it's fun and interesting enough to where this is more unique to me than the campaign that we got. So this is 2 of the really 3 modes. There's technically 4, but let me tell you why I'm not counting one of them here in a minute. So we have your campaign, your wave survival. Now there's versus, which is essentially wave survival, but you know, against another player instead of the AI, obviously. Now, my problem with this, while it's a cool idea and it sounds fun, they start you out from the beginning. You don't have every single unlock unlocked. And while in wave survival, you slowly unlock it as you go through. In versus, it just requires more commitment and less actual parts of the gameplay you want to do to get through that progression. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense unless you actually play it. But you have to just run around and do a bunch of useless crap and things you don't want to do in the versus mode, where you just play something else, right? If I wanted to do all of that, I would just go play the campaign, right? I can just go do all of that in the campaign. But I want to build my base and fight against my friends. That's what versus is for. Now this mode is the 3rd mode. But let me talk about why I'm not counting the 4th mode, because it's rough. So the final mode is a monthly update mode where they add something new every month. The problem with this is that it purely relies on how well the game works. This game absolutely flops. 0 out of 10s, horrible review scores. That mode is going to get 2 updates, if I had to guess, and then they're going to stop supporting it. If the game does really well, they're going to support it a lot, and that's how they're going to keep people coming back to the game and buying skins and all of that stuff, microtransactions, blah, blah, blah. So that mode you really can't tell anything with yet, and it's going to depend on, you know, what they put out. One month it might suck, one month it might be absolutely great. But Again, right now, it's not anything special. The wave survival is definitely the way to go with everything that's in the game right now. It has what's best in the campaign without having to watch a cutscene every 45 seconds, and you get to just do the defensive stuff. Now, if this gameplay, if this part here looks fun to you, then this can only be found really in the campaign. That's what you're going to want to play. But I like the defensive stuff. That's more my thing, so that's why I enjoyed that the most. So when reviewing something, I typically break it down. I do campaign, multiplayer, graphics, gameplay, bugs, glitches, all of that good stuff, and then give it a score considering the price. Well, here, the campaign is about what I expected. The gameplay is a little bit worse than I expected. I mean, it's Minecraft. I don't expect anything too heavy for those two sections. Same thing with graphics. It actually looks better than I expected for a Minecraft game, so that's good. I didn't have any problems with the game at all. No bugs, no crashes, nothing like that. So that's good. And I actually want to compare this before giving it a score to Minecraft Dungeons, right? If you remember Minecraft Dungeons, I had about the same level of expectation for that game. The difference between Minecraft Dungeons and Minecraft Legends is that with Minecraft Dungeons, what was there was short, which was relatively the same amount of playtime here, about 10 hours. But what was there was really good. There just wasn't enough of it, and they waited way too long to add more of it. Yes, it was simplistic, but it was what I expected. It was exactly what I wanted, just a quick little fun, top-down, beat-em-up, loot and shoot type of game, right? I enjoyed it. I got my 10 hours out of it. I just wanted more of it, right? I needed more variety, more loot, more cosmetics to unlock, and I would have kept playing it. Here, I got bored very quickly. Right, their main campaign, their mode that is supposed to take you in the longest amount of time and have you put the most hours into, is just incredibly boring. I just wasn't interested, and again, it might just be because I don't like offensive stuff. I like defending, and that might purely be the reason. But I just did not enjoy that part at all. The point I'm trying to make is that one game has just not enough content, but at least, depending on who you ask, decent quality content to high, in my opinion, versus this game where there's the same level of content, not enough if you do like it, but too much if you can't stand it, right? Minecraft Dungeons, I never felt overstayed its welcome. You were progressing, constantly getting new weapons and armors and enemy types to where you weren't getting bored. This got tedious and repetitive within the first 2 hours, was my problem with this game. So, let's go ahead and go into giving this a score. And this is where things get complicated, because we have our Game Pass system, right? If you've watched one of my reviews on a Game Pass game before, you have to give everything that's on Game Pass a Game Pass score and a non-Game Pass score. So what that means is, the way I look at Game Pass is it's free. I'm paying for Game Pass anyways. I would not have bought Game Pass for this, but I already have Game Pass, so this game was free. But most people don't see it like that, so we're going to factor in that the game was, what is typical Game Pass? $5? Ultimate's $15, but we're going to say it's $5, right? You have normal Game Pass. You paid just for this game to play it for the month. It was $5. Is this worth $5? Yeah. The Wave Survival mode is worth $5. Nothing else in here I would play for more than like an hour or two. But the Wave Survival mode, yeah, you get your friends on. You could play that for like a weekend. That's enjoyable. That's worth $5. Now, free 99, obviously, it's worth even more than that at free, which is the way I look at it. But let's move on to if you don't have Game Pass. So for some reason, you're living in 2023, have an Xbox or a PC, and don't have Game Pass, and you're missing out on the biggest bargain ever, but that's besides the point. I've made videos on that. This game is $40. $40 fucking dollars, right? If you play the campaign for the longest estimation I've seen is 12 hours. So if you play the campaign for 12 hours, then you play each other mode for 10 hours, that would be $1 an hour, right? Now, there's absolutely no way you're playing these other modes for 10 hours each, but that was just my representation of the only way you're getting your money's worth out of this game. It's not worth $40. Honestly, I don't know if it's worth $20. I think like $15 like this as a mode expansion for Minecraft Dungeons would have been fantastic. that would have been the expansion of a lifetime, right? But its own game at almost full price, that this is not worth it. So let me go ahead and give out scores. And again, this is something that is hard, very hard to score, because this isn't my realm. This isn't my realm of gameplay, right? I don't play these types of games. But we got like Dead Island 2 coming out, and Jedi Survivor. Those are very easy to score. I'm familiar with those games. I know what I'm doing. I've played those types of games a lot. I know all the buzzwords to use. I know what I'm doing when it comes to those. With this is really my first experience with this type of game. So I'm going to give you my thoughts as someone who's never played this type of game before. So, if you got Game Pass and consider this a free game or a $5 game, I would give this a 5 out of 10, right? It's decent. Depends on how much you like the campaign. It can be elevated if you really like the campaign or really like the verses, and it can be brought down if you really hate the campaign and you really hate the verses. I'm sitting, if I did decimals, which I don't, a really high 4 and a really low 5 is where I'm sitting for Game Pass. Now, if you paid $40 for this game, I was gonna give it a 4, but I can't. $40 for this is absurd, right? There's games that I won't buy right now. I won't buy Dead Space because it was like $55, and I know that's absolutely fantastic. $40 is an absurd price for this game. Do not spend $40 on this game. At $40, it's a 3 out of 10, but that's just my opinion. I know people are going to love this. They're going to hate just because it's Minecraft. They're going to say, oh, it's the best thing ever made. It's fine. It's nowhere near fantastic, and it's nowhere near as bad as some people are going to say it is. Again, if you didn't pay $40 for it. But that's just my thoughts. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you like this more, if you like Minecraft Dungeons more. And I'll see you guys on the next one.